The body of the assassinated Ecuadorian presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio was buried in a private ceremony in the country's capital on Friday night. Authorities said Thursday that they had arrested 6 suspects, all Colombian nationals and gang members, in connection with his assassination. The suspected shooter died earlier in police custody following an exchange of fire with security personnel, though his nationality remains unclear. During the investigation, authorities seized a rifle, a machine gun, 4 pistols, 3 grenades, 2 rifle magazines, 4 boxes of ammunition, 2 motorcycles, and a stolen vehicle believed to have been used by the suspects. South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma was returned to prison on Friday to comply with a ruling that his release on ill health was unlawful, but was freed after just an hour under a remission process to address overcrowding in jail. Zuma, who served as president from 2008 to 2018, began serving a 15-month prison sentence in July 2021 after being charged with contempt of court for defying a summons to appear at an inquiry into corruption during his time in office. In September 2021, the government's Correctional Services Department said Zuma, then 79, had been released from prison on medical parole due to ill health. The department announced that Zuma had been released from prison in October 2022, but South Africa's Court of Appeal ruled in November that Zuma should return to prison, saying the decision to release him on medical parole was unlawful. Saudi Arabia's ancient Red Sea port city Jeddah, stewing in the steamy heat of the world's hottest summer on record, is not the obvious pick to cool the world's fiercest conflict currently raging in Ukraine. In the days ahead of the summit, the Ukrainians set out their intent. Our goal in Saudi Arabia is to develop a unified vision of the formula and to work out the possibilities of holding the future Global Peace Summit, they said, referring to Ukraine's peace plan. U.S. State Department officials are billing it as Ukraine in the driver's seat, an opportunity to find a potential diplomatic resolution to the war, and for nations who might otherwise not hear directly from Kyiv to talk face-to-face with Ukrainian officials. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has fired his top general amid a shakeup of the country's military leadership and wants his army to gird for a war, state media reported Thursday. Gen Pak Soo-il was dismissed as chief of the general staff and Vice Marshal Ri Yong-gil was appointed in his place, according to the state-run Korean Central News Agency. The shakeup of the military leadership was mentioned only near the end of the KCNA report, which focused more on what it said was the important issue of making the army more thoroughly gird for a war given the grave political and military situation prevailing in the Korean peninsula. Uzbekistan began a trial on Friday over the deaths last year of 65 children linked to contaminated cough syrups, announcing for the first time a much higher death toll than before. The Central Asian nation had previously reported only 20 deaths linked to the medicines, which were produced by India's Marian Biotech. Among the 21 defendants, who are all Uzbek citizens, are former senior officials who were in charge of licensing imported medicines and executives of a private company that imported and distributed them, Uzbekistan's Supreme Court said in statement. Britain said on Thursday it was weighing how to respond to a decision by U.S. President Joe Biden to prohibit some tech investments in China, adding it was continuing to assess potential national security risks. Biden signed an executive order on Wednesday that authorizes the U.S. Treasury Secretary to prohibit or restrict U.S. investments in Chinese entities in 3 sectors: semiconductors and microelectronics, quantum information technologies and certain artificial intelligence systems. A spokesperson for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government said the executive order gave important clarity on the U.S. approach. The UK will consider these new measures closely as we continue to assess potential national security risks attached to some investments.
Russia launched its first probe to the moon in almost 50 years on Friday, a mission designed to give fresh impetus to its long-struggling space sector, which has been also hit by sanctions since the conflict in Ukraine. The launch of the Luna 25 probe is Moscow's first lunar mission since 1976, when the USSR was a pioneer in the conquest of space. The rocket with the Luna 25 probe lifted off from the Vostochny Cosmodrome, according to live images broadcast by the Russian space agency Roscosmos. Roscosmos expects the probe to enter a 100-kilometer high lunar orbit on August 16 and land on the moon north of the Bogoslavsky crater on August 21, the agency said in a statement. An attack by ISIS on Syrian government forces in the war-torn country's east has killed 33 soldiers, a monitor said Saturday, revising an earlier toll of 26 deaths. The shooting Thursday evening on an army bus was ISIS' deadliest attack on government forces this year, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The jihadists surrounded the bus in the desert near Mayadeen, in Deir Ezzor province, and opened fire, the observatory reported on Friday. The death toll from the army bus attack rose to 33 soldiers, said Rami Abdul Rahman, who heads the British-based monitoring group which relies on a wide network of sources inside Syria.is. Claimed the attack later Friday, saying its fighters had carried out an ambush on 2 military buses, targeting them with heavy weapons and rocket-propelled grenades and setting one on fire, according to a statement from the jihadists' Amaq news agency. Tesla boss Elon Musk said on Friday his planned cage fight with billionaire rival Mark Zuckerberg would be held at an epic location with an ancient Roman theme, as Italy indicated it was ready to stage the scrap. Italy's culture minister Gennaro Sangiuliano said in a statement that he had spoken to Musk about hosting a large charitable and historically evocative event. Musk threw down the gauntlet to Zuckerberg in a June 20 post, saying he was up for a cage match with his business rival, who is trained in jiu-jitsu. It was the first time the people of Lahaina had been allowed to return since wildfires laid ruin to their town 3 days ago. Once cleared, they traveled the winding highway, under a tunnel cutting through the lush West Maui Mountains and into town. Some were on mopeds, others in the back of pickup trucks, wind whipping as they passed a series of picture postcard beaches. Ryan Nakagawa has lived here his whole life and returns with his family to see the damage on the ground. They're wearing masks to protect themselves from the acrid smoke filling the air. Much of the wreckage is still smoldering. It really feels like a bomb has been dropped, he says. I feel like if you pinched me right now and I would wake up, probably better off. But this is the reality, unfortunately.